are, Autobots. You simply fail to understand that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Activating the bridge. The needs of the many outweigh
the needs of the few.
Or the one.
Hey, what's up and welcome back to Interpreting the Stars, where today I'm going to be bringing it back to my Transformers rewatch of films with the third film in the series and final film to star Shia LaBeouf. It's Transformers Dark of the Moon. Transformers Dark of the Moon continues the stories of the Autobots versus the Decepticons when it's learned that in the 60s an Autobot ship crash-landed on the dark side of the moon. That ship contained a machine that would have won the war for them. On the ship is also Sentinel Prime, the original leader of the Autobots. With Sam Witwicky's help, the Autobots plan to retrieve that device until they are betrayed by the one thing they never thought would turn on them. So I have a little bit of a history with this one because, back in the day, my brother and I traveled all the way over to Chicago, Illinois to audition, essentially, to be extras in this movie. We waited in line for more than 6 hours to essentially sign some paperwork and get our pictures taken. In the end, we did not get the parts, probably because we did not live in Illinois. But it was an experience. And maybe it's because of that experience, but I actually kind of like this movie, at least in part. It's nothing perfect, and it lacks specifically when you compare it to the first film, but I find quite a bit of it to be memorable and paced a lot better than the previous films. And a part of that has to do with the way that the movie is introduced and even edited. You see, the film tries to convince the audience that the space race happened because the Transformers landed on the moon, and we had to investigate that first. And throughout all these flashbacks back to the 60s, they did a good job of weaving together things that actually happened, like the glitches during the landing of the moon where we kind of lost contact for a few minutes, and that was for them to investigate this ship on the moon. Also, the actors that they used to play JFK and Richard Nixon, and how they wove together fake acted scenes with actual speeches that they really gave. It was all really done pretty well. Also, a part of the device that they found at Chernobyl, that was pretty cool. And I don't know if they were making the claim that that piece of the Transformer ship was partially the cause for the Chernobyl incident or not, but if that was the case, I love it. It helps set in stone the idea that Transformers really have been around for a long time, influencing some of the things that we have done in our own real history. Apart from that, like I said, I do consider a lot of this movie to be memorable. A lot of the action, a lot of the casting, and just, overall scenes here and there made an impact in one way or another. Like the battle in Chicago, where the humans are kind of racing through slanted buildings that are in the process of falling down, to the worm-like transformer that they encounter here and there throughout the film, to the entire existence of Sentinel Prime, played by the very famous Leonard Nimoy. And I love that they used as many Star Trek references in this movie as they did, including Spock's own line, "The needs of the many
outweigh the needs of the few."
I thought that, even though Megatron's use in the previous film was tacky at best, that he was better utilized in this movie. I thought that Shia did an okay job, even if this was probably his weakest performance in the entire trilogy. At this point, I almost want to say that there were times where I felt as if Shia was phoning in some of his lines because he had a contract to fulfill, that he had to do 3 movies, this was the third, so some of those scenes didn't flow as well or as passionate as I felt like he's been in the past. But that could also just be because of Rosie Huntington-Whiteley as his new girlfriend, and I just didn't sense their chemistry. And she was just more of a bimbo than Megan Fox ever was. She annoyed the crap out of me. And Shia annoyed me when his character was asked if he loved her, and he's all like, "She's the one." Oh, give me a break. Also, plot-wise, I didn't feel like this was all over the place like it has been in the past. It was relatively straightforward. There's this MacGuffin that the Transformers want, whether we're talking about the Autobots or the Decepticons. And then it's basically a battle from beginning to end, either to retrieve that thing or destroy it. They didn't go over the top on things that didn't matter, like Sam's job. He has it, but it's not focused on as much as his school was, like in the last movie. His parents are also in the movie, but they're more of a cameo, like they should have been in the last movie, which helped balance out the themes in this film, and it didn't feel so much like it was trying to be a comedy. Also, the role played by Patrick Dempsey as this sort of human villain. I actually like that, because it gave Shia LaBeouf a physical adversary to battle alongside Optimus Prime battling his own villains at the same time. Honestly, this was indeed a step up from that last movie, but from a negative standpoint, it's still too long. I don't know why they're all like, oh, we're going to make a new Transformers film? Well, I mean, I guess we're going to prepare for ourselves for 2.5 hours of runtime. I mean, that's been the case every single time. I mean, come on, it's totally unnecessary. Every single one of these films would make more sense at 2 hours of runtime, and if you want to be longer, I would accept maybe 2 hours 10 minutes tops, not 2 hours 35 minutes. Also, like I sort of mentioned before, Rosie Huntington's role, it's stupid, and it's utterly unnecessary. Megan Fox didn't have a lot of worth in the second film either, but at least she and Shia had chemistry. This girl is dumb, and she has no chemistry. Take her out entirely, and you already have a better film. Let's go ahead and break down my final score. From an unbiased technical perspective, I thought that this film was solid. Just like the previous films, there's a lot to love with how much the visuals look great. I mean, sure, there's still an oversaturated take on explosions and things of the nature, but I'm still going to go off the idea that I can't do anything remotely close to that, and to me that means, at least in part, that it is impressive. I thought that the pacing was much better this time around, and it was essentially a good ender if they wanted to stop at this point. It's still imperfect, and at this point no longer feels utterly original, but it's fairly decent at a score of 72%. My bias score is a little bit higher because I actually found this film to be somewhat memorable in the scheme of things. It had a unique take on the landing of the moon and the Chernobyl incident, which I loved, but it still felt long, and Rosie's character was nothing more than a nuisance. This score is 78%, and when we average out the two scores together, we come to the final rating of 75%. 75 out of 100 possible stars, or a B letter grade. Guys, what are your thoughts on Transformers Dark of the Moon? In the long range of Transformers films, where do you rank it? Let me know, and as for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit that like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come out with my next review. And until then, peace out.
Dave examines movies we just watch for fun. Davey is the expert, he is the #1 critic that I go to when I need a movie.